topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Powerful Business Strategies, where you will find out that everything you have ever learned about growing your business is wrong. Finally, a show where you'll learn the right way to grow your business by learning business and financial strategies that your competition isn't doing. And now, here is your host, President of Next Step CFO, Michael Barbarita. And joining Michael for today's show as an executive moderator is Chucky Obia.
Yes. This is Chucky, and I believe that gratitude is undefeated and growth is about the next step. It is an honor for me to moderate today's discussion with my good friend, Michael. Michael, how are you?
Good. How are you, Chucky? How was your weekend?
Weekend was phenomenal.
Despite Dallas losing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the Cowboys lost something I probably have to get therapy for later this week. Yeah. How was your weekend?
Really good. Thanks.
Great.
And my name is Michael Barbarita, president of Next Step CFO. And Next Step CFO is a fractional CFO and strategic implementation firm. And our vision is to ensure overwhelmed business owners achieve the time freedom and consistent profits to build a legacy and live the life they desire. And our mission is dedicated to guiding small business owners to leveraging their time, exploding their profits, and build a meaningful legacy. This show, Powerful Business Strategies, and our book of the same name is a step toward accomplishing that vision and mission. So with that, I'd like to hand it back to my co-author and moderator for the show today, Chucky Obio.
Michael, look, I am energized about today's episode. The title for today's episode is Increasing Prices. And I know that we've got quite a few insights, practical insights to share. Before we do that, just a quick disclaimer, Michael. Look, as our regular listeners know, in fact, we have a number of new listeners. Michael and I are both affiliated with a number of different organizations, and I currently serve as the managing director of business development for Vedder Price, a global business-focused law firm. In addition to that, it's truly inspirational to collaborate with Michael to moderate a number of business roundtables, really coast to coast, and then meet with small business owners and medium-sized business owners and document best practices from those business roundtables. And look, this is part of the inspiration for our book, Powerful Business Strategies. But please note, the views expressed in today's show are our personal views based on success stories and successful experiences. My mission as a fearless leader and moderator for the discussion is to ask the right questions and help you as a listener to really learn the best strategies that the competition isn't doing. And Michael, look, given your CFO and CEO experience, I am truly energized by today's episode because we're discussing something that a lot of business owners might find counterintuitive: increasing prices.
Yeah, absolutely. Fearful even. Yeah, it's something that they fear. So as Chucky pointed out, today's show, we'll show you how to raise your prices and charge your worth without losing new business. But please understand that it's value, not price, that attracts consumers and prospects. If you can increase the value of your product or service, you'll be able to increase your prices, your profit margins, and increase your sales. And there are some common mistakes made by business owners. So you should first familiarize yourself with price fundamentals. But before I get into that, one of the things, this is really interesting, how one of the ways that I increased the value of coming to my ski stores. When I was in the ski business, one of the ways that I added value was I used to offer free, freshly popped popcorn. I bought a large popcorn popper from a local carnival, And when I popped the popcorn, you could smell it throughout the store. And the core concept in retailing was to get people in the store and let your merchandising sell the product. Even if somebody comes into the store and doesn't even want to buy, the concept is to get them into the store and have your merchandising sell the product for you.
Interesting.
So people used to come into the store just for the popcorn. Okay, and at the end, they'd walk out with product in their hands. And it was, the popcorn was hot and fresh. We kept, some days we had to do 6 or 7 batches. And it drove revenue. It added value versus going to our competitor. Our competitors never, ever did such a thing. And you're going to see a little later on how Japanese auto dealers do a similar thing. And what we did with the popcorn alone justified any small price hike we may have implemented. And so just coming up with ideas to adding more value to your product or service is really important when it comes time to increase prices. So low price consumers, think about this fundamental. Low price consumers will mostly consume your time if you're competing on price. And it's almost always the case. Typically, they're the loudest in demanding value. And it's oftentimes it's thought that the contrary is true, where the customers that pay the highest prices demand the most value. Not really true. If you really analyze who the customers are that are the loudest and are heckling the loudest, it's usually the low price customers that are the loudest and are consuming your time. So those who spend the most for anything should be entitled to the best treatment, and that's exactly what they get. But those customers that paid the highest prices, they simply make less complaints about value. Think about that. And let's look at 2 tactics where you could rapidly boost your pricing without any noticeable influence on your overall number of clients, both of which would improve your worth considerably. But here is the most important thing to note. The beautiful thing about being in business and price increases is you can always test your prices. You can always test it with a couple of customers, test it with a couple of quotes, test it on the retail floor. You're not married to it. You can always revert back. So here are those 2 tactics. First, in cases where an uptick in price won't scare away customers too much, it would be worthwhile to consider simply raising your prices just a tad. A product or service that normally sells for $92 may have its price increased to, say, $97. What if you just increase it slightly? Customers are likely to not even notice the price hike, as they likely see no meaningful difference between the new and old costs. And one of the things that we learned is that even with a small price increase, over time, that could mean, it definitely means more gross profit dollars, but it also means an increase in your gross profit percentage. 2 of the things that we always want to look at, part of the Vital 5 that we always want to look at. And one strategy is to think about raising the prices of anything you sell that presently costs between $90 and $96, $80 and $86, $70 and $76, and so on, and change the final digit to a 7 or an 8 or a 9 even. But today it looks like 7 or 8 are the sweet spots. So a product that's selling between $90 and $96, make it $97 or $98. And doing so will often result in no pushback and have no effect on conversion rates. Once again, if the thought of trying this makes you nervous, run a little test, double check your findings. In the event of client resistance, you have the option to revert back to your previous price structure. It's one of the beautiful things about business and about being in business for yourself. You have the opportunity to test.
Exactly. Right. Michael, I want to pick up on that point. So we are getting some skeptics, right? As you might imagine, right? So there's some business owners that are a little skeptical here, right? Like, let's go back to just the point that you made about testing this, right? I mean, there's some folks who are
Right.
saying, well, look, I mean, how do I even start to kind of build that kind of a test profile? What are your thoughts related to that?
Well, I mean, if you're a retail store, change a couple of prices in the store to, increase them slightly, see what the impact is. If you're a service organization that provides quotes, increase your hourly. If you're a service organization, you probably have labor, increase your hourly rate slightly and do a couple of quotes, see what the impact is. Every time, or whatever price list you have, maybe even if you have a sub shop, okay, you change the price just 1 week, for 1 week to test it, the price of a ham sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whatever it is, you can always test it and revert back if you get the resistance that you may or may not expect.
Exactly.
And that's really how it's done. And that's the beautiful thing about price increases. You can test them. You're not married to them. It's not like, you have to announce them to the world. You don't. And so it's really an effective way to maximize the optimum price. And so the second tactic is something I have suggested with my clients for years, and it's proven very successful. And by the way, before you do any of these tactics, you should always understand your competition's pricing, if for nothing else, just to know it and know where you stand compared to your rivals.
Mm-hmm.
But what I tell clients is if you get resistance or complaints due to high prices, 25 to 33% of the time, you're probably priced correctly. If you get resistance or complaints due to high prices less than 25% of the time, then you're likely priced too low.
Mm.
And when you get resistance or complaints to high prices more than 33% of the time, you should probably keep your prices where they are, except if it becomes more than 50% of the time. And then you should think about retracting some of the prices. But that's
Michael, yeah, it's funny. You just got a nice kind of compliment here. So it seems as though that could be part of the test, right? So you gather these data points and then you use some of the thresholds that you called out. For example, the 25% threshold, you use that as a way to measure the effectiveness of your price increase strategy, right?
Right, absolutely. And if your complaints are below 1 out of 4 or 25%,
Mm-hmm.
then you're probably priced too low.
Yeah.
Then you could start creeping up, start testing the creep. Start testing the creep up. And that way you'll be right on top of it. Now, it's important to track your metrics on that. Retail, you ask the people on the floor, what's the resistance on price? If you're in the service business, you should keep track of what percentage of the time your quotes are denied because of price. People will usually tell you if it's price. They're getting a smaller quote from someone else. That's always, and sometimes that line is not really true, of course. But I think that if you kept track of it, customers know a good deal. They'll keep their mouth shut when you have a good, when they're ready to buy right away. So I think I have always had success. My clients have always had success measuring that, using those ratios to measure whether or not their prices are in line. So let's talk about commodity-based businesses, because they have difficulties when trying to raise price without a corresponding value-added component.
It's true.
And notice I said without a corresponding value-added component.
Mm-hmm.
To justify a price increase for a commodity-based business, you have to zero in on what makes your product or service stand out from the competitors, and that includes how it's delivered. In other words, and you've heard us say these words before, if you've listened to any of our shows, you need a position of market dominance. And We have shows dedicated to explaining that at powerfulbusinessstrategies.com. And if I have time at the end of the show, I'll explain some of the general mechanics of a position of market dominance again. But you're best served by going to powerfulbusinessstrategies.com, and there'll be a show there that talks about position of market dominance. And you should listen to that show and get a really good idea, because it's critical to your ability to increase prices. So, and let me give you a quick example of a commodity-based business who established a position of market dominance. So a dry cleaning business, and dry cleaning businesses are very popular, and for the most part are a commodity-based business. You know, there's a lot of dry cleaners around. There's not one at every corner, but every town probably has 2 or 3. And so for the most part, they're what I call commodity-based businesses. But what if the dry cleaner both picked up and delivered your clothes? Do you think that company could raise prices without losing customers? I would say that it's very likely.
Absolutely.
And you can see just by that how a position of market dominance sets you apart. The value it has is undeniable and immeasurably high. So how do you raise prices gradually and avoid annoying customers? So you basically have to follow these steps for the most effective implementation of this technique. And this is quite lengthy, what I'm about to say, but it's well worth it. And there are some very insightful questions that I'm going to pose. So be honest with yourself. The preliminary work is to make a list of your rivals and write those names down. So that's the first thing. You're going to write down a list of your competitors, their names, the services they provide, any discounts they might offer, the various forms of advertising and promotions that they use. And to get this information, you could collect their advertisements, join their mailing list, go to their stores, call them as a phony customer. I used to do that all the time. I used to call my competitors and have a sock over the phone, so just in case somebody could pick up my voice.
I love it. That's called
it would be difficult for them to do that.
Competitive intelligence, Michael.
Yeah,
competitive intelligence.
I know. I'd give that all away. And you could browse their websites, and the list goes on. Then you should ask yourself the following questions. First, how much do you typically charge for your main offerings? Second, when was the last time you did a price increase? Because you really should do price increases at a minimum of once a year. And then third, how competitive is your pricing in relation to those of your rivals? Fourth, in what ways does your product excel over those of the competition? Fifth, is there anything more that you can offer with your goods that the buyer sees as increasing its value? Please give that number 5 the most thought, by the way. 6, it's simple for customers to go elsewhere to get, or is it simple for customers to go elsewhere to get lower prices for the products you sell? 7, do you have an understanding of your competition's greatest area of vulnerability? That's a really important question. Where are your competitors weak, and how can you exploit that? 8, do you or are you able to make up for your competitor's shortcoming after you analyze what that shortcoming is in order to achieve market share? 9, in what ways do you think taking advantage of your competitor's shortcomings will affect your sales and conversion rates? And number 10, how much more money could you make if you increase your pricing by simply 3%? And I know this is a lot of research, what I just went through, but if you're planning to create a solid business, you'll do well to understand what would happen if you boost your prices by 3% while retaining your existing sales conversion rate. Would 3% be noticeable by your client or customer? It's kind of what we said at the beginning of the show. When you have a product between 90 to $96. Have it end with a 7 or an 8, $97 or $98. And is that going to be noticeable? So doing this research is essential if you're a business owner and you want to stay ahead of your competitors. But most business owners, however, are already stretched too thin to devote much more time and energy to make the most of the resources available. So consider contacting a local business school. By the way, I've done this. Consider contacting a local business school or community college about hiring a student to conduct this research on behalf, or even better, advertising an internship position. The internships are a great way for business students to receive hands-on experience in the field, while also you're getting some free assistance with the research, or if it's not free, and I've gotten free, but there is sometimes you have to pay a minimum wage. And by the way, if you're in a state like Massachusetts, there's a program that pays for training for Massachusetts-based employees. Do a Google search for Massachusetts Workforce Training Fund Program. Let me say that again. If you're in the state of Massachusetts, do a Google search for Massachusetts Workforce Training Fund Program. If you have an existing training program, you should definitely definitely should do that Google search. And if you're planning on hiring interns for any reason, and you have put together a training program of any kind, whether it's interns or not, doesn't have to be interns. You should do that Google search, because the state of Massachusetts will pay you up to $200,000 for training employees. So, if you don't have the time to do the research yourself, just hire a business student for next to nothing to do the groundwork, answer your questions, and compile the results of those 10 questions. And don't forget to include the following details, like a list of the competitors and their contact information, a synopsis of each competitor's product or service. You could go when you hire someone to do it, like an intern or a business student, you can go into these details. The prices at which it's currently being offered, the competitor's relative strengths and weaknesses, and a statement of your competitors' marketing goals and objectives. You should learn as much as you can about your competitors. What if they have risk reversal techniques? You should understand if they have those. Customer service, shipping costs, all that stuff. Any guarantees or warranties or other payment conditions that could sway a customer to make a purchase. The point is to get you thinking about which of these will give you the greatest chance of success. And the best places to look for answers are the ones we'll cover next. So whomever ends up doing the study should go there first. So start with their online presence, then become a secret shopper. And a business student is a great secret shopper, by the way. And visit stores or locations. Even if they're service companies, visit the location. See if there's any advantage to being at the location they're in. Even make purchases. I used to buy competitors' products. If I didn't have it, I used to buy it to see if it works. Talking to consumers, analyzing advertisements, attending speeches or presentations, and checking out trade exhibits and displays. These are all ways to get new information, not just about products or services, but about your competitors. You can investigate a variety of printed materials, from online directories to annual reports to databases to industry surveys to trade organizations, publications to local newspapers, periodicals, and journals. I know this sounds exhausting, but it's been proven that the more you learn, the better your chances of success. And there are 3 essential things that can readily justify a price hike. And I know you're all going to say that's easier said than done, and it is. But these are the things that really help we business owners. And once you have this crucial data that I mentioned, and once again, you get an intern to do it, you can utilize it to implement 3 changes to your business that will allow you to charge whatever you choose. One is you're in a dominant position in the market. Of course, that means you have a position of market dominance and you have great value versus the competitors. Your products are in high demand. And three, the risk connected with buying your products or services have been reduced or eliminated altogether. Now, if a company has these three things, it may easily become the dominant player in the market. Once again, it's easier said than done. But one of the things that Shuki and I do is we help business owners with these three exact things. And let's delve deeply now into each of these areas. So your company's ability to dominate its market. This is what we call the position of market dominance. This one thing is the most crucial factor in achieving business success. And it's the position of market dominance that attracts customers to your company rather than those of your competitors. So think about this. Now, do you have a position of market dominance? And if yes, do you make your position of market dominance clear to your potential customers in all of your advertising, in all of your sales calls, in all of your interactions, including your answering machine? What is it that you provide that makes it silly for them to consider purchasing from someone else? If there are 100 customers in a market and 19 firms like yours, you'll only attract 5% of those prospects if you don't have a position of market dominance. And in most industries, that's not enough. The position of market dominance is that critical component that identifies what makes you different. So never underestimate the power of having a really strong position of market dominance, especially if you're ready to take your business to a whole new level. And imagine disempowering your rivals. Okay, because that's what it does. And actually it hits them. They don't know what hit them when you have this real powerful position of market dominance. And that's what it can do. And you need to put an effort to create your position of market dominance. And then make sure it comes over clearly in all of your marketing materials, in all of your phone interactions, and other points of contact with your customers and prospects. Since this is so important, the initial series of lessons is aimed to teach you how to establish your company as the market leader. You know, you may increase the perceived worth of your product or service by leaps and bounds. And if you can convince potential customers that you have a commanding position in the market successfully, increasing prices at that time will yield the biggest results, and it won't be a big deal because you're offering the value. But if you don't work on strengthening your position of market dominance, your potential customers won't be able to tell you apart from the competition. And there's only one way that they'll be able to tell you apart, and that's price. And that's what business owners after business owner runs into. They don't have a strong separator. They don't have a strong position of market dominance. And as a result, they're only leaving the customer with one choice to compare you against somebody else, and that's price. You have to constantly increase the value of your product or service, and you have to be able to communicate it very easily and readily. And this suggests that you're simply another, when your competition can't tell you apart, it suggests that you're simply another face in the crowd. And at that moment, you're competing on price. Never lose sight of the fact that a prospect will only use pricing as a differentiator if everything else is equal. Secondly, in order to maximize value, many firms follow a standard operating procedure that's widely used by other organizations in the same industry. See, most companies can only adapt so much from other fields because they were founded within their current economic niche. That's why it's so important for company owners to make it part of their routine to research companies in other fields. Take a look at different ways that lawyers in the UK advertise and run their business, or that travel agencies in Australia provide their services, or the Methods auto dealerships, which I'll give you an example in a moment, in Japan, use to close their deals. The next step is to determine how you can borrow successfully from their methods and implement them to your own. And this is all part of the education process of adding more value. Look and see what other companies and other industries are doing. In a nutshell, you'll rule your industry if you're able to do this. And so let me explain the customary practice at Japanese auto dealerships. So the customary practice at Japanese auto dealerships is to provide potential customers with a drink menu on a laminated card. And they may have anything to drink, from a selection that includes iced coffee, hot tea, sodas, hot chocolate, and water. What does that cost? It seems like there would be a lot of companies who would benefit from using that kind of protocol. What do you think? What would you think if your bank did something like that for you? Or a spa, a florist, a doctor, an accountant, a hair shop? This is a basic illustration of a service with additional value. These services don't break the bank, but make your company look much more valuable. Think of these types of things.
For sure. It's interesting. We just got a nice kind of comment related to that, Michael. Like, these businesses that you listed out, they have a feature of their service that requires wait times.
Right.
So taking advantage of when your prospective client, your prospective customer is waiting for a service, and you leveraging that to deliver a high quality service to that individual as they wait. So that's really interesting, Michael.
That's a good way to expand on that. That's right. So, any business that requires that somebody has to wait for something, you have to wait for a salesperson in an auto dealership, you have to wait for a doctor at a doctor's office. That would be an awesome opportunity to provide something, whether it's drink, food, whatever it is. Like I said, we provided popcorn.
Nice.
And we, customers had to wait, but the popcorn was really for browsing. Because people would come in just for the popcorn and browse. And I can't tell you how many times they left with buying something.
Remarkable.
So when selling a product, a difficult product, it's often a great idea to throw in some free education in the form of a free report or a white paper, or even just a link to a relevant portion of your website. I mean, how much did you really spend to provide free education? I mean, it costs virtually nothing. So, that free education multiplies the value of your product or service and justifies any small price increase you may implement. And the key is to think in terms of value addition to stay ahead of the competition. In today's business world, it's just imperative that you'll always be thinking about better ways to assist and support your customers and clients and prospects and provide more value. A lot of business owners are thinking right now, how do I do that? But, we just gave you some great examples of going out there in other fields and seeing what they're doing to add more value to their product or service. Yeah, and here's another thing. You ought to be perpetually dissatisfied with your approach and constantly re-examining it. All right. It's this perpetual dissatisfaction, because business always changes. And sometimes you'll do something that worked last year and it's not working this year. And so you always got to re-examine different ways to add that value. And so the following are powerful questions you should be asking yourself and your team every single day. So here's one. Can you tell us the issues our customers have that we can help them with? So anybody on your team, whether they're answering a phone, whether they're on a retail floor or a service business where you're answering the phone or having contact, giving quotes, having contact with customers, have those people start to identify the issues that customers are having that you could potentially help them with. Because every customer has a problem when they call you. And sometimes that problem is not as visible as you think. 2, how can you make a bigger splash this month than you did the month before? These are questions you should always be asking yourself and asking your team. 3, what can we do better this month to make our customers feel appreciated? And here's the last one. What can I do better, or what can we do better to meet their needs than my rivals do right now? So how can we do better than the competition does in meeting these specific needs that our customers have?
Great questions. Michael, and another kind of quick question, just to pick your brain on this, given your vast experience. How often should a business do customer appreciation events and or customer satisfaction surveys?
Oh, that's excellent. That's an excellent question. Well, with respect to appreciation events, it would be nice if you could do those twice a year. But with respect to surveys, it depends how you do the survey. You know, I used to do customer studies.
Okay.
And I used to do them live, and I used to pay people, I think it was $50. That was a while ago, though, so it might be more now. It will be more now. To come to we called it customer event. We called it some type of customer event, and we didn't disclose who we were.
Okay.
So we asked basic questions about their ski purchasing experience.
Okay.
And sometimes our name was mentioned as good, and sometimes it was mentioned as bad. And it was very interesting. And I think that those surveys are the most effective when a customer doesn't know who's putting it on.
Yeah.
All right. Because I think that they're the most open and honest. Whereas if the survey comes directly from you, it's not as effective. Now, there are companies that do this, of course, but I used to do it I used to have employees do it. And I thought they did a real good job. We used to construct the questions beforehand, and then I guess they call customer focus groups. That's probably the best word for them.
Okay. It's a really good nugget. Yeah.
Yeah. It's something that, boy, was it valuable. Oh God, because you would be able to identify where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, not just in your specific business, but also weaknesses from your competitors.
Exactly.
Because they'll bring up the competitors. They'll say they were horrible at this, or they were terrific at that. You know,
Absolutely.
And so it's a real stimulating thing. And we used to record them. We got permission from everybody to record. You know, when you pay them, you usually they're very forgiving on anything. You know, they're willing to do them. You know, recording is not a big deal. So now, you know, one of the ways that you can differentiate your product or service, especially if your product or service is identical to the competition,
Correct,
is by paying special attention to the way you greet customers, the way you respond to their concerns, the way they make, you know, when they make suggestions. Suggestion boxes are great, by the way. They're very telling as well. And you should have suggestion boxes not only for customers but for employees. And you may differentiate yourself from the competition and acquire an edge in any one of those areas. You know,
exactly.
just by the way you greet customers.
It's a really good point, Michael. And we're seeing this, by the way. I mean, just across industries. Just a really quick nugget for the audience: clients experience, customer experience professionals, where all they focus in on is literally the experience life cycle when they interact with prospects and customers. So that's a really good point that you shared, just around you could differentiate based on how you greet, how you engage with customers in a warm way. Really helpful.
Right. It all counts. And you got to remember that once the word gets out, potential customers will only care about what's in it for them. That's it. At the end of the day, that's all they're going to care about. So those little things can mean a lot. And let's put ourselves in the shoes of a customer and ask ourselves, or ask yourself, the following: what benefits may I, as a consumer, see in this? What sets this business apart from others in the region, and why should people shop here or buy here, purchase here instead of somewhere else? And what you get out of it is it allows you to shift your focus from how am I going to gain more clients to how am I going to offer more value. That is a shift, a mind shift that has to take place in the mind of a business owner. From how am I going to gain more clients, because that's what we're always thinking of all the time, to how am I going to offer more value. That really should be where the concentration is. And that increase in value coordinates with an increase in price. Even if you're in a market where increasing price isn't feasible, increasing the value provided to customers will almost certainly increase your bottom line, even if you're not increasing prices, because you're just going to gain a reputation and get more volume as a result.
Really good point.
Think about it. Who do you think would obtain the lion's share of the business if you were seen in the marketplace as offering the highest value? It's just overwhelming how important that is and what that means to price increases. And by the way, some customers have no problem spending a bit more on a premium service. You got to understand that. If you find this to be the case in your company, you could first improve your service and then increase your prices. And for example, think of a company as boring as another dry cleaner example, who typically builds rapport with customers on a whole rather poorly, if you think about it. But imagine how you'd feel if every time you visited the dry cleaner, a happy, helpful person greeted you by name and brought you a fresh cup of coffee and a sweet treat. That attitude that they have as being obsessively concerned about the condition of your garments. That right there will make just a tremendous difference. Customers of dry cleaners place a premium on those kinds of unique touches. This dry cleaner may boost rates thanks to these incremental gains in value, and their consumers will be happy to pay it.
Exactly.
And lastly, if you can reverse or eliminate the risk of a purchase, you can easily justify any price hike you implement in your organization. Essentially, just remove the stumbling block that is preventing potential customers from purchasing from you. And this is called a risk reversal. To truly achieve a risk reversal, you must take the burden of the risk off of the customer's shoulders and place it squarely on your own where it actually belongs, since you're delivering a product or service. And this will encourage potential customers to take a step towards committing to your business, especially if you could demonstrate superior value over your rivals and a more compelling case for why your company should be the market leader. So just think about this. I want to get into the compliments, but think about this. The majority of companies in the world offer their goods with a guarantee that's both vague and painless. What I mean by that is if a customer calls you today and complains about something in a very vehement way, I bet you're going to do something for them. I don't care what it is. You might give them a refund. You might make an alteration. You might give them a new one. You might redo the whole thing, whatever it is. But regrettably, that's not often reflected in your pitch.
Yeah.
So all we're doing is asking you to do the types of things that you do with angry customers, and just make it part of your presentation.
Exactly.
And that's usually this risk reversal.
As they say, prevention's better than cure, right, Michael?
That's right. Absolutely correct. So, Chucky, I want to give you enough time to do our compliment segment.
Absolutely. So look, very energized by our business compliments segment. But by the way, Michael, I took a lot of notes. I think the strategies and the insights that you laid out for increasing prices strategically and tactically, very helpful. So we've got 5 business compliments. These are business owners coast to coast that we want to spotlight. The first business owner is Matt Green. Matt is an MBA and he is with Ledger Medial Accounting and Tax. And Michael, get this, they have 6 core values in how they engage client services: integrity,
Wow.
transparency, ambition, accountability, accuracy, and efficiency. So kudos to Matt and team just for the client service oriented work that they do. The second business owner is John J with Triple B, so BBB septic and portable toilets. And look, this is tough work that John and team do, right? I mean, when you're working with septics and portable toilets, I mean, you are doing the Lord's work, Michael, right? So they started this in 1987. They've been in business for decades, and what's really interesting is just their focus on the highest level of excellence in how they engage with their business. Look, again, kudos to John and team. The third business owner that we'll spotlight here, Mariano Solis Perez. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Mariano Solis Perez with 5 Star Home Services LLC. Again, focused on small businesses, more than almost a decade of experience. Again, the service that they provide, I actually really respect this. And they're out of Southwest Florida, and they've got some other kind of regions that they focus in on, but very detail oriented in ensuring that they deliver home services at the highest level. The next business owner that we'll spotlight, Amanda Nadia Abdel Said, and she is with Amanda Nadia Group. They specialize in off-market new construction homes. But Michael, get this, like I really love this focus. Here's their motto. Their motto is your dream home awaits. Ooh. Your dream home awaits. Like just a really nice image for families looking to, get a home, even individuals looking to get a home as well. And the last, certainly not the least, Robin Diamond with Fifth and Core. This is a marketing company, and the name just is actually quite philosophical and poetic, right? The fifth comes from the 5 senses, and then the core comes from a Latin phrase, which is just so impactful. It means for the heart. So 5 senses for the heart. This is why they are such a differentiated marketing organization. So with that, Michael, I'll toss it back over to you.
Great. Thank you, Chucky. Yeah, I just want to throw one nugget out here relative to price increases. Wouldn't you like to know if you implemented a price increase, how many customers you could afford to lose and have the same profit as you had before the price increase? Well, that's something that I do for my clients, and it increases their confidence in implementing a price increase. For example, I had a client on the fence in implementing a certain price increase. So I did an analysis for him that showed him that he could afford to lose 15% of his customers and still have the same profit as he had before the price increase. He said, and I quote, "No way I'm going to lose 15% of my customers." And so he implemented the price increase, and that analysis kicked him off the fence. And unfortunately, we don't have time to go into detail on what a position of market dominance is. Once again, go to powerfulbusinessstrategies.com. You'll see one of our shows dedicated to it completely. It's critical in helping you increase price. One way to learn, however, is to go to nextstepcfo.net, click on the Contact Us page, and fill out the contact form. In the message section of the form, put the words "book interview," and we'll send you a calendar as a schedule. And we will interview you for the next edition of our book called Powerful Business Strategies, and you'll gain valuable insights on the position of market dominance and our conversion formula. Well, Chucky, to get a copy of the book, powerful business strategies, simply go to our website again, www.nextstepcfo.net. It's totally complimentary. And until next Monday at noon Eastern time, for Chucky Obio, my name is Michael Barbarita. And remember, don't keep doing what your competition is doing.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Powerful Business Strategies, finding out that everything you ever learned about growing your business is wrong. Tune in next week and every week at noon Eastern Time on W4CY Radio with your host, Michael Barbarita of Next Step CFO and moderator Chucky Obio.